Hey, world. Being willing to come back with another video. I want to come back to this video here because I want to take a little time to address certain issues that happened in recently, last week or so. Primarily like say the Breonna Taylor uh, situation, the verdict with the officers not being, you know, convicted of murder or. And it's so amazing because what happened was this: you have all the protests and you have all of this, right? George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, you know, and I just see, I just really hate the fact that people sleep on Fidel Castile, and that was the young man who was in Minnesota, who was shot and killed by a law officer uh, with his wife and his baby in the car because he was reaching for to let him, and he told him that I do have a weapon, permit, and was shot, and it's on video. So that's why I like a lot of this stuff is really kind of I don't know. It doesn't make sense if law enforcement officers, you know, by statistics, they say, have killed, you know, other ethnicities of people, you know, never on camera. I mean, and so that's why sometimes we got to kind of really kind of sit and think about these things, family. You know, how how is it that only one group of people is televised nationally? Like I said, if something can happen. Like I'm in Texas, if something happened in Washington D.C. or Minnesota, California, and we all hear about it down here in Texas. You know, a police officer killing a melanated brother. But why we don't ever hear about other ethnicities? That don't sound right. And so I've been kind of sitting up here and thinking, you know, there's two ways you can look at this. And I always tell you guys, you've been in the garden a while, I speak about the real actors and the fake actors. And remember, the real actors are the politicians, the news media, you know, anybody, newspapers, anybody that's actually giving you information that's supposed to be real news. Those are the real actors, the real distractors, right? The ones that we're supposed to, validate and give them, credibility because they're the news, right? They're politicians, I mean, we voted for them. So, we give them a certain level of credibility and really don't give them any receipts to turn in because they're not turning in receipts. So they have to be viewed as real actors because nothing is done, right? And then, of course, you have your fake actors, which are the, you know, so-called actors that are in Hollywood, people who pretend to be other people, entertainers. That's basically what they are, entertainers. And unfortunately, you have to add professional entertainers in that as well. What I mean by professional entertainers, I'm talking about athletes. You know, the athletes that are chosen to be, used as entertainers. And then of course it's a hierarchy of these entertainers. If you can sell to the masses, then you're gonna be up here. Like the Michael Jordans, the LeBron James, those guys there that can actually have their, melanated people go out and buy tennis shoes or, go out and listen to them like Muhammad Ali, go out and listen to them. They get a platform, okay? Because see, these are the manufactured actors. And so how you look at things really gonna really kind of shape your reality. Because if you don't know like that it's systemic, it has to be something that's systematic for only melanated men and women are televised nationwide, sometimes worldwide. Really now worldwide with the internet, being killed by cops. That is a psychological thing, and it's actually a psychological agenda. Because as a young male, especially a young melanated male, and you've like, because I know since the '90s with Rodney King and whatnot, why can't I remember cops killing Hispanics, Caucasians, Asians? Why can't I remember? Why is not? Why is that not in my memory Rolodex? You did, and so that's why I was like, that's why I brought up Fidel Philan Castile from Minnesota, who was killed earlier with his wife, his girl, and his baby in the car, right? That was in Minnesota, but it wasn't until George Floyd was, that's George Floyd's situation that all of a sudden Black Lives Matter. But Black Lives didn't matter when, you know, Mr. Castile was transitioned, right? So that's what I'm saying. You really got to ask yourself, do I understand the real actors and the fake actors? Do I really understand how systemic this is? Because, like I say, Breonna Taylor and the whole notion of these people protesting because, cops are getting off, that is ridiculous. It's on purpose, okay? Because if policies don't change, I'm telling you right now, this is so crazy. Supreme Court justice just now, they out of recess. They back in. What are they talking about? They're hearing cases about the Obamacare, and they're hearing cases about, you know, distribution of money. What? It's not anything that's going to like make a difference, or cause a macro change in society's attitudes. These protests, these Black Lives Matter protests, and all that kind of stuff, man, it's just a money grab. Because if the policies wasn't changed, if you guys didn't hear anything about any policies changed, then come on, that's disingenuous. I'm telling you right now, if you want to know if racism really exists, right? For you personally, and I don't care what ethnicity you are, if you just want to know, right? Start asking, you know, why does racism exist? Ask a white person that. Ask a Hispanic. Ask an Asian that. Why does it exist? Right? And what do you think has changed? What do you think could be done to change racism? Because it's not even a matter of racism. If you're talking about racism, all of that is scientifically manufactured. Back in the 1700s, cat by the name, last name Lamass or something like that. I'm gonna go back and put it in the chat. But it was a European cat back in the 1700s that actually, and if you've been in the garden a while, I've talked about this, that actually categorized the different races. Like the top four, top five races. And remember, these are scientists. Because remember, the white race had been around like 100 years, like in the 1600s, before the so-called label white even existed. That label, this whole notion of racism didn't even exist before the 1700s, and that's when scientists came along and categorized people based on scientific research to indicate a person's colors, mental capacity, social capacity, all right, and just his whole importance to society. And so when you see that it was white at top, well, of course white gonna be up top because they the one that basically even started this whole notion of, you know, classes of race. And so when, of course, if you do the research, you'll see that, people of color, you know, melanated, African oriented people were on the bottom. Then of course, you had the Caucasians up top, white people up top. Remember, there was no such thing as white. And so when this whole notion of class was created, white was created by white. And somehow they were able to convince the world of its, hierarchy. But remember, it was only a small group of people that was able to convince the world of that. And so when you add that wealth that the small group of people had with, you know, all the propaganda, with the military assistance, with the literature, okay? I mean, just think about, one of the oldest books allegedly in the, that is most everybody's ever have either, read or it's been read to or go to church every Sunday, the Bible. Even in the Bible, when you talk about Jews, who are they today in society? And no one has debunked that. Remember, the present day Jews today, they adopted Judaism. It was they weren't just like Jews from lineage. They're Jews from adoption. They adopted Judaism. The group of people that are current present day Jews, they adopted that religion and culture because they had a choice between Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and chose Judaism. And so over the years, the centuries, the decades, whatnot, that's why. And you ask yourself, especially those that are biblically inclined, you're like, wait a minute, how can Jews that are the present day Jews, designed as the present day Jews right now, that are Caucasians, that are white, right? How is that possible? Well, it's only possible because if you look at the history of it, you'll see that it was adopted, right? The religion, the culture, it was adopted, and that's why so many Jews that are born into the Jewish faith or whatever turn to Christianity or do a lot of other things because it's not it's not a lineage. Remember, if you know anything about the Bible, Jews are actually from the tribe of Judah, which of course it all depends on what your and if it all depends on what your knowledge is about who Judah was. Judah was, of course, one of the sons of Jacob, right? And so, which is the lineage of Jesus. And so, if Yeshua or whoever you call him, right? So we know that it's definitely just like me being melanated, and I practice Judaism. I'm a black Jew, right? Well, it's not because I'm Jewish, through faith. I adopted it. But me adopting Judaism has more validity if you have a historical analysis because, if you go all the way back, that region back then were all melanated people. Okay? So if I just want to I did go off on a little tangent right there, but it all comes back to the fact that, real actors and fake actors dictate our society, dictate your perception, dictate how you think of things. And that's why we mostly are what? Consumers, because of the information that we're given to us. So if you didn't get a chance, go check out that video I did about propaganda and Edward Bernays. Check that out because it's a real. It was created. This isn't an accident by no means. The society we live in, the reality we have right now, is not by accident. So make sure if you get an opportunity, read that book called Propaganda by Edward Bernays, and everything you'll see that's happening right now, you say, oh, okay, that's how they did it. It wasn't by accident. All right. So the reason why the whole situation, the race class was created was to keep, certain group of people in power. And what's so crazy about it, that small elite group of people that run the world, right, that are pretty much top choice, which would be white. Those that are not elite financially, okay, the fact that they're just white gives them a thread to that. And so they even fooled by them. And that's why they call the real actors and the fake actors, family. All right? In the meantime, between time, family guys, may the most high to bring you joy and being what is out of 5,000.